Good evening, everyone. As Sheila mentioned, my name is Robert Lester, and I am the Civic Engagement Coordinator for VICPP. I have been with the center for, it will be a year actually on this coming Friday. I'm 4 days. In 4 days, I may be able to stay on longer if I make it 4 more days. But anyhow, I started last year in September, right when we were in the middle of another campaign that was going on. Our elections last year were on November the 8th. So I was, thank you there. I was going hard from there. And as soon as the General Assembly, which ended, we started up again on our civic engagement. So I have been working extremely hard on building relationships and coalitions all around the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it has been a pleasure to work with a lot of nice people. So with that, I will turn it back over to Sheila.
Thank you, Robert. And Robert is one of the nice people, I gotta say. He is a joy to work with. We keep each other sane, I hope. At least he keeps me sane. But yeah, Sheila Herlihy Hennessee, Faith Organizer. And I wanted to talk a little bit just about why the 2023 elections are so key and so important. So, as you may be aware, in Virginia, we have elections every single year. The first of these elections in our 4-year cycle is the presidential election. That one is in years that are divisible by 4. That always has the highest turnout. It garners big national attention. You may have even heard last week was the very first presidential debate of the 24 election season. Second year of the election cycle is the gubernatorial election. That's where Virginia elects our governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, another big turnout. Third year of our election cycle is the congressional race. That's where everybody in the House of Representatives at the national level in Congress is up for election, and occasionally a senator. And the fourth and final year of our Virginia election cycle is the Virginia legislative elections. That's this year. That's where every single seat in the House of Delegates and Virginia's state Senate is up for elections. This is hugely important because this only happens every 4 years. This means that while every seat in the House of Delegates is up for election every 2 years, similar to the national level, although we are in odd-numbered years, the state Senate has a lot of power and a lot of control about what laws can be passed, and they are only up for elections every 4 years. This election has a big impact on what policies are even going to be possible for the next 4 years. Which laws will be voted in favor, which laws will be voted down. The people's priorities and positions on important issues this year determine what Virginia will see over the next through 2027. Another really important reason that this year's elections are so key is because this is the first state election since redistricting. Y'all may recall 2020, there was a census, there was a pandemic, and because of the pandemic, the census took a little longer than expected. So we did not have redistricting until a little bit later than anticipated. Last year were our first national elections since redistricting, and some people had new candidates and new districts. But this year in the state elections, there's even more changing up and crossing over. The redistricting process was one of the most equal, the least partisan redistricting processes anywhere in the country. However, that means that they didn't pay attention to where incumbents lived, which means that many incumbents ended up in the same district. So as it says on your screen, longtime legislators decided to retire rather than face a primary challenge. And honestly, many of them had been in office for 30, 40 years and were just ready to retire. This means with retirements and redistricting and the way the primaries played out, Virginia's legislature has the highest turnover rate in its 400-year history. That's according to I haven't seen this quoted anywhere else, but from what I've seen, historically, the highest turnover rates have been like 20-ish%. In 2021, we were shocked. We had 7 new, or maybe it was 17. We had like almost around 7 new delegates to meet who had never met VICPP before. This coming year, it's going to be more like 40 new legislators who've never met with us before, who are freshmen, who are not familiar with the system. This also means that ideologically, there's a lot of possibilities on the table. It means that either chamber could go in either direction in terms of partisanship, but it also means that there's a lot of policies and a lot of changes that have the potential to be really helpful to people that are on the ballot in this November's election. Finally, and a thing that I'm just shocked that more people don't know, you need to be aware of how important this year's election are, because the state legislature passes more laws than Congress does. Virginia's General Assembly last year passed something like 800 laws. Congress this year, well, now, and it's their first year in session, but in 2023 so far, Congress has passed less than 30 laws. That's a factor of 25. Virginia, despite, tapped forward a slide, despite having deeply separated partisanship this year, in case you weren't aware, the House was controlled by Republicans and the Senate was controlled by Democrats. So there was a lot of back and forth and idealistic bickering between the two chambers. However, they still managed to pass over 800 laws. So these laws affect our everyday life. These laws include the things that Virginia Interfaith has been prioritizing, things like paid sick days and rights for workers, solitary confinement, oversight of the Department of Corrections, profiteering in jails and prisons, things like health equity, unconscious bias, access to health care and health insurance, things like affordable housing and how much money goes toward building new housing or protecting people from evictions. These laws all get decided at the state level, and all of them are on the ballot this year. So I do want to encourage you, Lord. I've gone way beyond. So it is so important that you know who is on your ballot, get to know your candidates, and you are informed when you go to the ballot box. Again, historically, the year in which the entire legislature is up for election this year has the lowest voter turnout. We can change that this year. And every single vote makes a difference. Some folks might remember back in 2017, there was one House of Delegates race in Virginia that came out as a full-on tie. To determine who went to Richmond and represented the people, they literally pulled a name out of a hat. We don't want any of the elections that close this year. We want to make sure that turnout is so high that the people's voice is heard and that our priorities are represented in the General Assembly. So make sure you are getting to know your candidates, getting informed, and aware of who's on your ballot and how you can, and helping your friends to get out the votes. I think I went a little bit into some of Robert's section, but that's a big part of my piece. Are there any questions about why this year's elections are so important? It is good to have all of you here. I think it's so important to share this information as widely and broadly as possible. And I am so grateful to have you guys on the call, and that you're representative of your communities or your congregations or your league or your pickleball team or whatever so that you're able to take what you learned tonight and pass it onward. I also want to make a quick note about who's not on the call. We don't have any representative of the Democratic Party of Buchanan County, and we don't have representatives from the Republican Party of Alexandria. We are firmly nonpartisan. We are never going to tell you who to vote for or which candidate is better. What this training is about is talking about our priorities and how to figure out which candidate is most aligned with your values and your priorities, because that ultimately should be the determining factor in how you vote and how the community votes. So again, thank you for being on and participating in this. I'm going to turn it over to Robert to talk a little bit about the priorities for outreach and education, and I can share. Do you want to try screen sharing, Robert? You want me to do it?
No, I'll let you do it.
Okay, you got it.
So good evening again, everyone. And it's always good to see my good friend, Pierre Hammond there. We call him Pete. Some people call him Pete when he's not going by his French name. But anyhow, good evening again. And I wanted to share with you some of the things and or programs that Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy is doing this year to help engage or educate our citizens and partners, coalition partners, and folks that we work with and that we have never met before. We're running a number of different programs to help generate, to get people registered to vote, to educate them on the candidates, and afterwards, once they get in office, whoever these persons are in November, we need to engage them and hold them accountable to our concerns. So that's what our whole program is centered around. So we got about 5 to 6 different things that we're doing. One of the big programs that we're running right now is called the 100% voting congregation plan. So in this plan, we are partnering and or engaging with congregations all over Virginia, and these are all different denominations. And what our goal is to have them become 100% voting body. So when I am engaging with faith leaders across or people in leadership at the different congregations, they are civic minded. A lot of them are, a tremendous amount of them are. And what we are doing is trying to assist them to make sure that their congregation is 100% voting. How are we doing this? There's a couple of ways. So we can help them to develop a plan to make sure that the members are voted. And in doing so, we can verify that members are registered, because that's what you want to do. We have 2 ways of doing that. The leader of the congregation can ask the members of their congregation to say, are you registered? Can you hold up your registration card and as proof that you are registered to vote? And everybody in the congregation can do that. But at some of the congregations, they're very large. Some are small, some are medium, and some are large. This morning, I was at a congregation, St. Paul's Baptist Church in Henrico. That is a mega church. The pastor is 100% on supporting the plan of making sure that everyone in his church who's eligible to vote is able to cast their vote. So with an organization of that size, we can partner with them to check the names to make sure that all of the people are registered to vote, because he has thousands of members. So that is one of the things that we're doing to assist the congregations. That's very important. The other thing is, if you on this call and you're a member of a congregation, some congregations have been struggling after the pandemic. And we have come up with an incentive to encourage the church, the congregation to get registered, whereby we will make a donation to the church. Again, we're nonpartisan. We're not telling people who to vote for. We just want people to exercise their vote. So we are, if the church or the congregation becomes 100% voting, we are offering that body $500. Now, did you want to add something, Sheila? You look like you wanted to add something. No?
Oh, just a little. So the 100% voting, so part of the data match, right, is matching your congregation's list to the voter file. But when you commit to be 100% voting, you get a banner, which is actually the same image you see in the top left of your screen. And you also commit to doing these other 5 things on your screen, you know, distributing information about ways to vote, participating in community-wide efforts to register voters, and learning and educating your community about local candidates. So there is the making sure your members are registered is a very important piece, perhaps the most important piece, but all of these other pieces are also essential for 100% voting. We have, I think, about 20 congregations around Virginia who've committed to be 100% voting so far. Not all of them, maybe a quarter of them have committed to matching their membership list with the voter files, but all of them are 100% voting and all of them are making an effort. And so that's pretty exciting. All right. Absolutely. So I'll let you talk about candidate forums.
All right. Next up, candidate forums. This is an opportunity for folks to come out and actually listen and hear the candidates present their positions on different issues. And we have partnered with a number of coalitions all around the Commonwealth to host candidate forums. And some of them are listed here. And where we get this data from is from what we call VPAP. That is a nonpartisan organization that collects data, and it's been doing it for years. And the email address is vpap.org, vpap.org. And there you will be able to see all of the information on your specific race areas. So all of those areas I talked about, or if you live in an area, there was a person on the call that said they lived in Hampton. Hampton, it may not have a very tightly contested race. However, you can still go on to vpap.org and see how close of a race that is, because again, turnout is the key. All right. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see what comes up. Okay, how to register. This is very, very important here. We generally, in previous times, we used to get the forms. We would go out with the clipboard and have our forms and set up a table to register people to vote. And we would wait for folks to come over to us and fill out the form. But nowadays, because the form, in order to register to vote, you have to include the person's social security number on the form, and people are very guarded on their social security number. Virginia Interfaith Center is encouraging people to register on their cell phone, and it is very, very easy to do. So if you engage, you can do your own voter registration drive with a cell phone, or anyone you come in contact with, by going to vote.elections.virginia.gov on the cell phone. And it will immediately take you to the page on the Virginia Virginia Election Board that says, I want to register to vote. And it's right there, one step. So we want to encourage people to do that, to register people on their phones. That way, when they go to put in their you have to put in the last 4 digits of your social security number, it's on their phone. They never have to worry about sharing it with anyone. So This is a major step into getting people to register to vote. Next slide. Let's see what else.
I was going to say, can I share real quick?
Yes.
One other cool thing about vote.elections.virginia.gov is that if you've moved or you know anyone who's moved, maybe they were already registered to vote, but you can update your address there. You can confirm your polling place. Like, Lord knows, during this most recent, during a recent election, my regular polling place was shut down. And so I had to vote in a different place, and I was able to find it all on there. So there's some really useful resources, even if you're already registered.
Thank you, Sheila. I think somebody had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Monty Johns. Any thought to using the Virginia driver's license number as a form of ID, since people are reticent to, use the Social Security number, because that is used quite often, on checks and just about everything else. Yeah. I mean, just advocating at least for that, because I think people would be more comfortable using that number instead of a Social Security number.
When you fill out the voter registration form, I think you can, the paper form, I think you can use your driver's license number instead. Because the driver's license number, in the government databases is associated with the Social Security number. I believe that is an option, yes. And Shonda, I saw your question in the chat. Yes, you can also use a computer or a laptop, any internet connected device. If you go to that website, you can do all the voter registration things. But also, Monty, did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, you answered that question. I have one more question. How much of this information would we be able to maybe certain portions put on our Facebook pages to help spread some of this information out?
Oh, Lord, I am all about sharing stuff on Facebook pages. In fact, and I'm sorry, Robert, I'm stealing.
That's all right.
Virginia Interfaith posts every Monday about voter engagement and civic engagement stuff. And so I think, well, this coming week, maybe I'll just do it inspired by this question. I think I'll do a post about the Virginia Department of Elections site and all the cool things you can do on that. Feel free to share what's on our social media. Feel free to create your own social media. The more the merrier, really. As much information as we can get out there, as many people as we can get informed, the better.
Okay.
All right. Great.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sally.
This is Sally. I just completed the voter registration training, and you have to have your Social Security number in order to register to vote.
I had it wrong then.
Good conversation and great questions. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. All right, here's another thing I wanted to remind everyone that in Virginia, I think it was in 2020, I think it was in 2020, they approved it. It went into effect in 2022 that we have same-day registration. For any reason that a person goes to the polls and they are told that for any reason that they don't have their name in the system, the person can say, I would like to register now, and do fill out a registration and cast a provisional vote. And also, if a person is not registered, has never been registered, and they say you come in contact with that person and you say, hey, are you voting today? And they say, I'm not registered. You can say, come along with me. You can come to the polls if they have ID. Take it. Go in, try to cast your ballot, your provisional ballot. We'll double check that. All right, next slide. Okay. Yes, here's another opportunity for folks to participate in their civic duties or civic responsibilities. We are running a postcard mailing campaign. What is this? Basically, studies have been done through research that when recipients of postcards that are handwritten, when they receive these handwritten cards, that people will take them and read them and consume the information, digest the information that's on the card versus something that's been that's been typed. And a lot of times when mail comes out related to the elections during this season, folks usually, a lot of people will take it from the mailbox and put it into the file cabinet, which I have over in my kitchen over there, and it just goes right in there, or in the recycle bin or something like that. But again, studies have shown handwritten postcards, people will read them. So what is on our postcards? It is general information about where your local polling location is. It will tell you the date of the elections and things of that nature. So in our package that we send to people who are volunteering to do postcard mailings, we would include, because generally these things are done in groups. We send them in batches of 100 postcards, and it may be a group, 5 volunteers that will get together. So we send a nonpartisan or a standard prayer thanking people for volunteering to do this. That's included in the package. You will have instructions on how to fill out the postcards. You will get the script, which includes because you have the name. You will have the name of the person as well, but it will have the script of what you actually write on the postcards. We will give you the mailing labels and the labels for the where the local registrar's office is. And we give you the list of voter names and addresses. And the last thing we give you is the postcards. So the question may be, well, where do you get the names and addresses? Okay. We partnered with a nonprofit organization that's here in Virginia that they collect data. And they get all of this data is public information that is available to certain people that have gone through training to get this access. But where we focus our attention is on the infrequent voters. Infrequent voters. These are people who are already registered, but the records show that they may vote in one race, skip a race, vote in the next race, skip a race. So we're encouraging those folks to make sure that they vote in this coming campaign. Next one slide, because see how we're doing on time here, Sheila. And let's see here. Vote with VICPP. Election protection. Yes, this is another important thing. Some people on this call, or you may know some folks that work at the polls. Like I have a friend here in my neighborhood who volunteers at the polls. I look forward to seeing that young lady every election day. And when I walk in, she says, "Oh, hello, Mr. Lester." She knows me because she's been seeing me for so long, but then she always asks me for my ID first too. And I think it's really comical. But anyhow, there's ways for you to do some civic duty in either volunteering at polls, but what we're doing is also providing folks to be there for election protection. Politics now in not just in Virginia, well, in Virginia, but nationally has gotten very scary. It's gotten very scary. So it's important that you have nonpartisan people at the polls that can be there just in case there's a problem. And we give tools or documents to the volunteers so that if there's a person, you see a person is having a problem at the poll, you can engage them and say, "Would you like some help?" And you can put them in touch with someone that can assist them with whatever the problem is. And we are seeking volunteers all over the Commonwealth. We have what we call adopted some precincts all around where we're looking to get volunteers. And those volunteers generally work about 4 hours, like 4 to 5 hours, because we're covering from opening to close. And it's usually like 3 shifts on each poll. So our information is there. It'll be on the website. And also we're going to share this presentation with everyone. If you want to volunteer to be at a precinct, and we give you all the information that you will need to help in case a voter has a problem. That's a proactive move there. Am I done yet, Sheila?
So actually, this is pretty much it. And I don't have a slide about canvassing, but it is important to hit on that. So why don't you talk about canvassing?
Okay, thank you, Sheila. On canvassing, we have set, Virginia Interfaith Center has designated 2 dates that we will go out into our neighborhoods to encourage infrequent voters to vote. It is October the 28th and November the 5th. Those are the 2 Saturdays prior to the election. And we will seek volunteers that are willing to go out. We will provide you with the addresses and the script and everything to say. We have little handouts that will go on the door if somebody's not there. And again, remember, because we're nonpartisan, it will just encourage people to go to the polls on election day. All right. Look forward to hearing more information on that. That's going to be very important too. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Robert. No, that was
information. Sorry.
So much there. And we will be sending out kind of the whole slideshow, sure, but also a summary version in our follow-up email to this training. So don't worry if you didn't get it all noted down. We will follow up.
Yeah. All right, Sheila, the floor is yours.
How can I top that? That was perfect.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to share just 2 more things, and y'all already got a preview of the slides, but very quickly, just so the important dates coming up. So we didn't mention this earlier, but oh Lord, I should have gone from current slide. The early voting, you are allowed to vote early in Virginia, starting on September 22nd. You can vote from September 22nd through November 4th, any weekday, and the 2 or 3 Saturdays before the election, depending on your district. Some registrars chose to be closed on weekends. Most are open on Saturdays. So go ahead and vote early. Encourage your friends to vote early. That frees them up to send postcards and invite other people to vote and go canvassing. So spread the word about early in-person voting. Again, we talked about same-day voter registration, but if you don't want to cast a provisional ballot, if you want the official ballot, your voting registration deadline will be October 16th, and the general election this year is November 7th. Put a big star on your calendar. And any questions, feel free to follow up with myself or Robert. Again, I cannot, we'll send out all this information, but I cannot stress enough what Winnie already said. This year's elections are so important. One vote, one voice truly can make a difference. You, by sharing this information with anyone else, you are sending out that ripple in the pond that is going to keep giving and giving and giving. Okay. Presidential elections have about 80% voter turnout, usually. Gubernatorial and congressional elections usually have between like 40 and 65% voter turnout. This year's election, state legislative election that determines policy for the next 4 years, usually have a turnout of between 20 and 40%. 40 is the high end. If we could double that, if we could get the kind of turnout we get in a presidential election, or if we don't, we can literally, even those non-competitive districts, become competitive if you get a big enough turnout. So educating voters and turning out voters makes a difference. What we are doing makes a difference. And oh Lord, I was going to go over policy priorities. Well, I'll send out the policy priorities, but just can't emphasize enough how essential you are, how grateful we are to be working with you, and how excited I am about this coming election and about all your involvement. So thank you for being here.
Call us if you need help with anything. We will come. All right. Thank you.